As Neil Armstrong climbed down the ladder to a new, yet incredibly old world, over 400,000 men and women symbolically descended with him. The men and women in government service, in industrial complexes, and in a network of universities who had made this incredible feat a reality.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The age of interplanetary exploration had begun. Armstrong described the dusty lunar soil as very fine, with a tendency to cling to his boots. It was, upon later analysis, found to be made up of fine particles, generally between the size of sand and talcum powder. Its constituents were minerals, plus about 50% glass fragments and spheroids. As for the problems of operating in the moon's 1/6 gravity field, Armstrong reported,
"There seems to be no difficulty in moving around as we suspected. It's even perhaps easier than the simulations of 1/6G that we performed in various simulations on the ground."
Next, Buzz Aldrin climbed down onto the surface of the moon. Together, they set about collecting samples and setting up experiments. The solar wind experiment, a piece of metallic foil which would collect particles from the atmosphere of the sun for analysis on Earth. The passive seismometer, to measure seismic activity, whether impacts of meteoroids or originating within the moon, and transmit the data back to Earth. And the final experiment, a device to reflect a laser beam shot from Earth back to Earth, eventually allowing measurement of Earth-Moon distances to within a foot. This experiment will not only allow accurate calculations of such things as continental drift, tidal effects, and so on, but could have a fundamental impact on basic physics. The portable life support systems worked perfectly, sustaining the astronauts for nearly 3 hours. Although Armstrong and Aldrin engaged in about 2.5 hours of intensive work, and according to one geologist who watched them, accomplished more than most geologists would in a full day, they showed no adverse effects. Their heart rate stayed in the 90 to 100 range. Armstrong would later report that working as they did in the 1/6 gravity field produced no strain.
Roger, guidance, steering, and yag.
The next day, it was time for liftoff and rendezvous, the first time men from Earth would launch from the surface of another world. For this liftoff, the ascent engine would have to ignite. There was no backup system. At the launch site, 250,000 miles from Earth, only 2 men. Supporting them from Earth, hundreds of men.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, port stage, engine arm ascent, proceed.
As with every other burn on this mission, the liftoff of Eagle's ascent stage was right on the money.
Shadow, beautiful. 26, 36 feet per second up. 5 for the pitch over. Very smooth. Balance couple off. Very quiet ride.
The next job, perform the rendezvous maneuvers to rejoin Mike Collins in Columbia, transfer their precious cargo, and return to Earth.